Most people think of sound in film as background, something that fills the empty air, invisible and unimportant. But every once in a while, the background speaks, and when it does, it whispers things no one remembers recording. In certain films, beyond the dialogue and score, there exist traces, breaths that don't belong to the actors, murmurs that vanish in later editions, and noises that seem to come from nowhere. They're not part of the soundtrack, not in the logs, and sometimes not even in the original reels, yet they're there, waiting to be noticed by someone who listens too closely. For decades, sound engineers have brushed these away as glitches or forgotten overdubs, but a few of them admitted something stranger: waveforms that appeared without a microphone source, audio channels that caught something else, a presence between the cuts. Some sounds aren't made to be heard, some shouldn't exist at all. Tonight, we're tuning into 15 films that accidentally captured what no one was meant to hear, where silence hides its own story and the echoes refuse to fade. What if the sound engineer wasn't alone in the room? And what if the microphone wasn't the only thing listening? The Blair Witch Project, 1999. The Blair Witch Project was built on chaos, but one detail has refused to stay buried. As Heather's camera jerks through the decaying house, her screams fill the space, and beneath them, faint, layered, dissonant, are multiple voices, some sobbing, some calling, one breathing slow and wet, like someone trapped inside the audio itself. The directors admitted most sound was reconstructed from field recordings, yet one of them once said, "There are noises in that last scene none of us remember capturing." That breath appears only in the Sundance cut and an early DVD pressing. Later editions replaced it with silence, no source reel, no metadata, no explanation. Even stranger, test screenings reportedly contained a subtitle cue during that same moment reading "Unknown Source," removed in all final versions. If the film began as a found footage experiment, it ended as a found recording. Hereditary, 2018. Ari Aster's Hereditary thrives on discomfort, the kind that lingers long after the credits fade. But one sound, nearly imperceptible, has haunted viewers more than any image. As Annie crawls across the attic ceiling, calling for her son, the camera trembles. Then, from the shadows, a male voice whispers, "Peter, it isn't hers, it isn't anyone's, it doesn't even echo right." And when reversed, the word changes, forming "open." The sound isn't on any official mix, only in early theatrical prints. When A24 remastered the film, it vanished completely. Audio analysts confirmed that its waveform didn't align with any mic used in production, suggesting the voice was embedded elsewhere after the mix was locked. When asked, Aster only smiled. Some sounds don't need permission to exist. Maybe this one found its own way in. Rosemary's Baby, 1968. Roman Polanski's masterpiece has long been a study in paranoia, but one sound may prove that not every fear was imagined. Near the film's end, Rosemary presses her eye to a peephole, peering into the apartment next door. For a heartbeat, everything is still. Then, just as the score drops away, a whisper slides through. "We see you." No actor mouths the words. It doesn't appear in any version after the VHS era, yet those who heard it swear it existed, soft, deliberate, and close enough to raise the hair on your neck. When archivists revisited the master tapes, the audio file wasn't there. Engineers dismissed it as a pattern in the hiss, but one insisted the whisper carried stereo movement impossible without intentional placement. Polanski himself once said, "Paranoia works when the audience feels observed." Maybe he didn't realize the film was doing exactly that. What if the movie wasn't about surveillance but performing it? Mulholland Drive, 2001. David Lynch is a director who understands the power of sound, yet even he might not explain this one. At Club Silencio, before the illusion begins, the air seems to fold in on itself. The audience is still, the lights dim, and just before the music starts, a voice rasps one word: "behind." It's not from the actors. It's not in the English subtitle track. Fans who compared releases discovered the whisper exists only in a 2002 Japanese DVD. Later versions erase it completely. When asked, one of Lynch's former sound engineers confessed anonymously, "Some mixes left the studio with channels we didn't touch. We were told not to question it." The whisper, when played backward, forms something like "don't go back," intentional. Or another accident in Lynch's Labyrinth of Dreams. If the dream was meant to confuse, maybe the soundtrack wanted to warn. The Witch, 2015. Robert Eggers built The Witch with silence as its sharpest weapon, but one of those silences isn't empty. In the scene where Thomasin prays alone among the trees, the forest stands still, and for a breath, everything stops. Then a sharp inhale, close to the mic, too deliberate to be wind. Eggers later stated that the sequence had been entirely overdubbed. No live sound was used, yet the breath remains on early Blu-rays. Enhanced analysis reveals it's reversed, echoing before it begins. Folklore scholars noted that the moment coincides with Thomasin's loss of innocence. The instant she's heard by something in the woods, whether an editing slip or an omen, it feels intentional, like the forest answering her. Sometimes, the silence listens back. The Exorcism of Emily Rose, 2005. Courtroom drama meets exorcism, horror, and somewhere between the two, The Exorcism of Emily Rose caught something it shouldn't have. During a nighttime cell scene, Father Moore sits in silence, head bowed, as if waiting for something unseen. The soundtrack drops to near silence until a faint, trembling chant surfaces, a male voice murmuring in Latin, the words indistinct but rhythmic, like a prayer from beneath the floor. It's not listed in the ADR notes, it isn't subtitled, yet when fans slowed the clip, the phrase roughly translated to, "He listens when they speak." The studio dismissed it as compression noise, but an ex-technician revealed that a church session for ambient audio had been aborted after technical interference. No one explained what that meant. The chant is gone from Blu-ray and streaming releases, leaving only a digital scar where it once lived. If faith can invite something in, maybe film can too. Poltergeist, 1982. Poltergeist is chaos, distilled a storm of noise, movement, and panic. But amid the explosions and screaming, one whisper cuts through everything. It's still inside. The line isn't scripted. It doesn't appear in subtitles. Yet it's undeniably there, tucked under the final escape sequence. When sound analysts revisited the master tracks, they found the phrase duplicated across both stereo channels, but slightly out of sync, something added after the mix. The original audio files for that moment were reportedly lost, forcing the crew to rebuild from fragments. But even so, no record of the whisper exists. Projectionists who screened the film in 1982 claimed the line never sounded the same twice. Sometimes a hiss, sometimes a voice, sometimes a growl. Maybe the haunting didn't end with the movie. Maybe it hid inside the reel. Under the Skin, 2013, Scarlett Johansson's alien watches humanity from a stolen body, but sometimes the film seems to watch her back. In a quiet moment, as she sits behind the wheel and studies the people passing by, a heavy breathing fills the space, not hers, not synchronized, and uncomfortably intimate. It hovers at the edge of the stereo field, like someone standing just behind the microphone. That sound is missing from most digital versions, yet prominent on the UK Blu-ray. When technicians analyzed it, they found no metadata linking it to any recording session. The waveform exists, but the source doesn't. Some say it was an accidental pickup from a field mic. Others think it was intentional, a reminder that even the alien is being observed. If she was hunting us, who was breathing over her shoulder? Don't Look Now, 1973. In Don't Look Now, fear is built from grief, not ghosts, but one sound, buried in the film's most frantic moment, feels almost too real to be coincidence. During John Baxter's final chase through the Venetian alleys, the music falters, the air thickens, and in the pause before the reveal, a faint child's giggle echoes. It doesn't match the scene, or any child in the film. It comes and goes in a single heartbeat, but once noticed, it changes the ending forever. That sound existed only on certain VHS and European DVD editions, never in the theatrical cut. When preservationists examined the prints, they couldn't find any layer containing it. One editor insisted the laugh wasn't in any negative, it just appeared. Even stranger, the figure at the film's end, the one that wears the red coat, never laughs at all. So whose voice did the film remember? Insidious, 2010. James Wan's Insidious weaponizes silence, but one line may have slipped past its creators. In the sequence where Josh wanders through the further, the soundtrack narrows to an empty hiss. Then, from nowhere, a man's voice whispers, "It's not done. It isn't in the script, nor in the official 5.1 mix. It's only present in the theatrical audio and a few early digital streams." Later home releases scrub it away completely. Composer Joseph Bashara denied embedding any vocal textures there. The sound engineers claim the frequency range doesn't match their equipment, yet the voice remains on fan rips, hovering, reverberating as though recorded in a smaller room than the scene itself. An assistant editor once posted cryptically online, "Something made it into the final mix that wasn't in the project." The post disappeared within days. In a film about haunting, maybe the haunting began in the edit bay. JFK 1991. Oliver Stone's Labyrinth of Conspiracy hides one of cinema's strangest audio accidents. In a bustling courthouse corridor, voices blur, cameras flash, and through it all, someone mutters, "He didn't fall." No character says it. No lips move. It isn't in any transcript or subtitle, but the whisper exists, buried in the ambient track of the theatrical release. When sound archivists examined the master, they found the phrase on a stereo channel labeled Room Tone B. That track should contain nothing but hum. The voice, they said, rides the noise floor like a ghost. Was it a leftover from overlapping dialogue? A subliminal experiment? Or an echo from another recording entirely? Even today, fan restorations isolate it low, male, emotionless. Every mystery has a witness. Some just hide in the background. The Others, 2001. Alejandro Amenabar built The Others on silence, long, breathless pauses that make sound itself terrifying. But in one hallway scene, the silence breathes back. Grace, Nicole Kidman, moves slowly past closed doors, her footsteps soft. The wind outside moans faintly, and then something exhales, a rasping breath, wet and close, captured inches from the mic. It lasts less than 2 seconds, but once you hear it, you can't unhear it. When audio technicians revisited the film for Blu-ray mastering, the breath was gone. The 18-minute mark, where it once lived, now falls silent. Yet early DVD owners swore they could still hear it, even posting waveform screenshots showing a lone spike, too organic to be static, too quiet to be human. A former post-production assistant claimed on a forum, "That hallway had no boom. That track should have been dead. If silence can carry memory, what did this one remember?" Session 9, 2001. Filmed in an actual abandoned asylum, Session 9 already felt too real, and one piece of audio may have crossed the line. During a long tracking shot, the workers move through the corridor. Nothing happens until a soft female voice whispers, "He's still here." No one reacts. It's not in the subtitles. The line exists, but nowhere in the script or session files. Director Brad Anderson has addressed it only once. "We never recorded that. If you hear it, it's not ours." The voice appears solely in the Region 1 DVD and early streaming prints. Later editions are silent. When the mix was analyzed, engineers found no matching vocal frequency in any archived layers. The voice had no echo, no spatial footprint, as if it wasn't recorded in that room at all. Even the actors deny saying it. One editor claimed a temporary soundbed was used, but the line doesn't exist there either. A voice in a film about lingering spirits that no one remembers recording, coincidence or proof? The Ninth Gate, 1999. The Ninth Gate plays like an academic descent into hell, but a smaller, quieter horror hides beneath its pages. During the scene where Dean Corso studies the engravings, the soundtrack sinks to silence, and just before he turns the page, a deep sigh seeps through the speakers. It isn't his. It doesn't line up with his breath or posture. The sound moves in an unnatural way, sliding from behind the viewer forward, as though the film itself exhaled. When fans compared versions, they noticed it only exists in one European region, 2-disc absent in every American and HD release. The composer denied using live breaths. The mix engineers said the stereo field behaved incorrectly. No one took responsibility. Years later, a leaked test mix revealed that the sigh occupies a channel with no recorded input, a ghost line. Some call it a prank. Others think it's a trace of analog interference, captured between takes. If film can see the unseen, perhaps sound can catch the unheard. The Innocents, 1961. Jack Clayton's The Innocents has always been praised for what it doesn't show. But for some who watched it in the dark, what it didn't show wasn't the problem. It was what it let you hear. In one late-night scene, the governess roams the corridors of the mansion. The only sound is the faint hum of the air, and then, layered under the score, a slow inhale, exhale, too close, too human. It doesn't match her movement or the frame. The sound simply lingers, breathing on its own. When restoration teams revisited the film decades later, they couldn't find the source. The breathing wasn't in the studio logs, not in the Foley, not in any mix channel. It appears only on a handful of early British prints, gone in every later release. Those who worked on the 2014 remaster confirmed the sound wasn't on the reel, yet the waveform exists, recorded by no mic, stored by no one. Deborah Kerr once said in an old interview, "Sometimes silence on that set didn't feel empty. It felt aware. Maybe the film wasn't haunted by ghosts. Maybe the sound was." A Field in England, 2013, Ben Wheatley's A Field in England already feels like an hallucination, a black and white descent into something that isn't quite madness, but not reality either. Still, among its chaotic images, one sound refuses to fit. During the infamous strobe sequence, flashes of white and faces twisted in pain, a man begins counting. The voice is calm, steady, and strangely tender. 1, 2, 3. It stops at 13, just as the screen turns to pure white. No such voice appears in the official sound files. It isn't listed in subtitles or captions, but several festival screening copies early, unmarked, and rare, contained it clearly. Every commercial release since then has gone silent at that moment. Sound engineers reviewing the anomaly found the count phasing across the stereo field, fading in and out like it was moving through the speakers, rather than being played by them. The waveform doesn't behave like recorded human speech. It modulates like interference. Fans swear they can still hear it on pirated rips. The count to 13, soft and final, ending in static. Some say it's Wheatley's own voice. Others think the film recorded something that didn't want to stop. Maybe the number wasn't a countdown. Maybe it was a warning. What you've just heard weren't lines. They weren't music cues. They were traces, quiet fragments left behind when the camera stopped rolling, or maybe after something else began listening. 15 films, 15 sounds. No one admits to recording. Some vanished, others changed over time. All of them leave one question echoing long after the credits fade. Were these accidents or evidence? Perhaps the real horror isn't what's seen on screen, but what's still whispering beneath it. Because if movies can capture sound, they can also remember it. Now it's your turn to listen. Which of these moments stayed with you the longest? Have you ever heard a noise in a film that no one else noticed? Tell us what you found or what found you. This is Darkroom Cinema, where even silence leaves a record.